All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Well, folks, round one of the 2024 NFL Draft is in the books, and there were some certainties as well as some surprises. We knew that quarterbacks were going to be going early in this draft, and that was the case. We saw Caleb Williams go first overall to the Bears, followed by Jaden Daniels second to Washington, and then Drake May third to New England. There was some speculation that teams could trade up with Arizona at number four to get a quarterback, or the Los Angeles Chargers at number five to get a quarterback, but that was not the case as Arizona decided to take wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., which I think is a phenomenal pick, to give quarterback Kyler Murray that go to guy at the wide receiver position. The Chargers have invested so much money in quarterback Justin Herbert. You have a new head coach in Jim Harbaugh. And what is Jim Harbaugh all about? Building from within. He got his offensive tackle for the coming years in Joe Alt. I talked earlier about the surprise with the New York Giants going for Malik Neighbors at number six, as opposed to taking a wide receiver, pardon me, a quarterback rather, possibly JJ McCarthy. They did not. But of course, the biggest surprise of the night came at pick number eight when Atlanta decided to take Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback out of Washington. And this was a surprise for Atlanta, but it kind of really changed everything else for the draft because I expected at least five quarterbacks to go in round one tonight. But then by Atlanta taking Michael Penix Jr., it made teams behind them a little bit more desperate. I'm going to get to that in a moment. But if you're Atlanta, you just spent so much money on Kirk Cousins, and then you turn around and draft Michael Penix Jr. I simply don't get it. It makes no sense right here. And again, like I talked about earlier, when you miss on your picks early on in the draft, it really pushes back the growth of your franchise. And this one right here, you can only have one quarterback play. You're not going to sit up there and have a Michael Penix Jr. Switch positions. If you were going to take Michael Penix Jr., then you should not have signed Kirk Cousins. There's no other way to get around it. But like I said, Atlanta taking Penix right there really shifted things because, then the Vikings traded up with the Jets one pick to get J.J. McCarthy. That was a quarterback that they wanted. They got him. And then, of course, Denver at number 12 taking Bo Nix, the quarterback out of Oregon. And, of course, the big loser in all of this, the Las Vegas Raiders, because they were looking at possibly getting Michael Penix Jr. at number 13. And, of course, by the time that the Raiders did pick, all of the quarterbacks that could have potentially gone early on in this draft were off of the board, and the Raiders had to settle, if you will, for Georgia tight end Brock Bowers. But getting back to the Bears, I like what they did tonight. They got their franchise quarterback and Caleb Williams, and then you come back at number 9 and get Rome Undunze, the phenomenal wide receiver out of Washington. It's been a very busy offseason for the Bears on the offensive side of the football. They signed running back DeAndre Swift. We saw them pick up Keenan Allen, the veteran wide receiver from the Chargers. And then, of course, DJ Moore, who was already in play for the Chicago Bears. I talked about the Jets swapping with the Vikings. They needed offensive line help. They got that. I really thought they should have taken the tight end Brock Bowers out of the University of Georgia, but nonetheless, the Jets need help on the offensive line. Um, I talked about it earlier as far as teams who will take reaches early on, and then it's going to help teams on the back end. And you look at the Minnesota Vikings, Dallas Turner falling to them at number 17. Of course, they lost to Neil Hunter in free agency. He's with the Houston Texans now. You need a guy who's going to go out there and get after the quarterback. Dallas Turner is that guy, especially in this division where you have a Jared Goff with the Lions, where you have a Jordan Love with the Packers, and now you have Caleb Williams with the Bears. The Cincinnati Bengals at number 18 taking Amarius Mims is very important because we've seen the injuries for quarterback Joe Burrow in recent years, and you have to keep him healthy. The Rams taking Jared Verse at number 19. First time in several years that we've been able to say that the Rams have had a first round pick, and then getting back to those teams and that were playoff teams last year. And like again, like I talked about guys falling to them that should have gone earlier. Chop Robinson falling to the Dolphins at number 21. That was big. Why? Because they just lost Christian Wilkins in free agency. The Philadelphia Eagles getting a phenomenal cornerback, Quinyon Mitchell, at pick number 22. And then you wonder why the Eagles are consistently, contending for the Super Bowl. This is why. Okay, Terry and Arnold at number 24 to the Detroit Lions after the Lions made the pick, the trade rather, with the Dallas Cowboys. And then another head scratcher for me, if you're Buffalo, you need wide receiver help. Um, and then you trade back with Kansas City, a team that has been in your way for the past several years as far as getting out of the AFC and getting to the Super Bowl, and then you allow Kansas City to come in and pick a guy that you could have used in Xavier Worthy, and it's just one of those where the rich just get richer. Kansas City was able to win the Super Bowl this past season with so many questions at the wide receiver position. Now they just got better with the fastest guy at the wide receiver position in this draft. The Baltimore Ravens continue to do what they always do, getting quality athletes. They took Nate Wiggins, the phenomenal cornerback out of Clemson at number 30. The San Francisco 49ers, a lot of questions at wide receiver right now in the Bay Area for the Niners. They took Ricky Pearsall. So you look at it, you still got some quality players available, of course, heading into day two, round two, tomorrow. Cooper DeJean, the phenomenal defensive back out of the University of Iowa. He's sitting right there. I don't expect him to be on the board that long tomorrow. Probably you look at Buffalo's picking first now in the second round after the late trade with Carolina. New England's a possibility. Arizona's a possibility. Washington's a possibility, as are the Chargers for a guy like Cooper DeJean. Adonai Mitchell at Texas is another guy to keep an eye on. Kool-Aid McKinstry, the fine cornerback out of Alabama for me. And then also Lad McConkey, a phenomenal pass route runner coming out of the University of Georgia. So for me, I think the biggest losers from night one of the NFL draft. I do not like what the Atlanta Falcons just did. I also think the Raiders are the big losers because I think they were sitting there expecting to have Michael Penix or Bo Nix right there for them. And of course, with six quarterbacks going in the top 12, that changed. For me, the biggest winners tonight, I like what the Minnesota Vikings did with their two picks. They got J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner. I love what the Bears did with Caleb Williams and Roman Dunze. And then for Kansas City to trade up and get a guy like Xavier Worthy, that was huge. Like the title of this thing goes, quarterbacks rule the roost. And like I talked about it earlier with the Giants, in this current National Football League, if you don't have that quarterback, okay, it's going to be hard to win. And that is why we saw six of the first 12 picks tonight be quarterbacks. Okay. The first 14 players overall were on the offensive side of the ball because why? If you can't score points and you can't protect your quarterback to go out there and help you score points, guess what? You're not going to win in this current National Football League. But again, quality players that should have been taken in the top 10, quality players that should have been taken in the top 15 have dropped down. And again, this is why the playoff teams continue to be the playoff teams because the early teams tend to take reaches. Those guys fall. And of course, the rest is history. But nonetheless, night one is in the books for the NFL draft. It's on to night number two for the second and third round. This is where you start to, find those gems, find those steals, and then of course heading into day three as you fill out your team. So the excitement was there for night number one, a lot of surprises, but now you're going to see why or you're going to continue to see why certain teams win and certain teams don't, as far as the teams that reach. And because of those reaches, the guys that fell into the lap of some quality teams in some very good situations. But nonetheless, the NFL draft, as always, is off to a hot start. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.